Hello, everyone. Greetings and salutations. Welcome back to another episode of the Back of the Pack podcast. I'm your host, Kyle Walker. My pleasure as always. I'm super excited for this week. So we are going back to kind of where we started. This is another feature in our Beyond the Finish Line series. That's where we get to kind of highlight and showcase the why we run these races, not just the cool medal, not just the t-shirt, but who we actually do this for. This is our series where we get to really dive in to the people behind the race and the reasons why we're out there. And so I'm really excited because it's been a while since we've done one of these. And so I'm excited to get this started again. If you remember back to last year, the very first race to really kind of take a flyer on the Back of the Pack podcast and agree to come on, a very young fledgling podcast at that time, was a race in its very first year. So it was kind of a match made in heaven. We talked to Libby Davis from the Fighting Fentanyl 5K. Her organization, Keepin Clean for Coop, is helping to fight the opioid and fentanyl epidemic that has taken over so much of this country. And when they first started, I know they were just kind of finding their legs and getting things figured out due to the tragedy that had happened in the Davis family life. Please go back and listen to last year's episode to cover all that. And so they were just getting started. And I can't believe how far they've come in this last year. Like, the Back of the Pack podcast is doing pretty well. Like, I am just thrilled with how we've grown over this last year. Well, then I look at Keepin Clean for Coop and their Fighting Fentanyl 5K, and they are just rocking it out there. They are doing so well, and we're so happy for them. So they are super busy, and they have so much going on, and they are doing great and wonderful things. We had a chance to grab Libby for a little while and talk to her just kind of about what they learned from last year's Fighting Fentanyl 5K, the year that they have had. And trust me, it's amazing. You don't want to miss this. And then we're going to talk about this year's Fighting Fentanyl 5K, again at Mill Valley High School on June 17th. I would love for you guys to go out there, get signed up. I hope that the podcast will have a big, big presence at this race. Wear your Back of the Pack podcast shirt or wear your KC Hustle Club shirt. But I want us to show up and show out for this really great cause and these really great people who are doing wonderful things. So again, this is part of our Beyond the Finish Line series. Please enjoy when producer Katie and I got to sit down with Libby Davis and talk about all the wonderful things going on with Keepin Clean for Coop and the Fighting Fentanyl 5K. Joining us on today's podcast, we are welcoming back our great friend Libby Davis from the Fighting Fentanyl 5K and Keeping It Clean for Coop. Welcome back to the podcast.
Thank you for having me back.
Absolutely. So you have the distinct honor, well, we're going to go with honor, of being the very first race director / charity partner that we ever had on the podcast a full year ago. I don't know if you knew that, but you were our very first one.
Awesome. That's awesome.
So joining us also today is the world famous producer, Katie. Hi, Katie.
World famous is a bit of a stretch, but hello, Kyle.
Oh, come on. You're always famous to us. So we are bringing Libby back because it's been a full year since the very first Fighting Fentanyl 5K. We had a great time at that race last year. I think from what I saw, it looked like it had a great turnout. So I wanted to invite them back and just kind of hear about how their first year went as a race. And then we're going to kind of just touch on everything going on with this charity partner of ours. And so, Libby, why don't you tell us how did you see last year's race? Was it a success? More than you'd hoped? Tell us a little bit about how you felt about last year.
Yeah, happy to. It was definitely more than we hoped. You know, organizing an event like this for the first time is very scary. You have no idea what to expect, you know, how many people might participate, you know, how things will really go throughout the day. But we definitely walked away thinking it was a great success. And we were very, very pleased with our turnout and just really how everything went that day.
Yeah. Do you happen to know, did you have a head count of how many people were there last year?
I do. So we had 542 registrations.
Wow.
Yeah. So for a first year, I think that's pretty good. I don't know. I don't have much to compare it to, but it was more than we had set our goal. So we were definitely pleased. And of course, it's a summer date. So we know that a lot of people registered just to be supportive, that they knew they would be out of town. And we compete with a lot of baseball going on and family vacations and things like that, which totally, we get it. And we just appreciate any support. So that day of the event, we had 323 5K finishers. And then we also had 35 kids in the fun run. So we still, we had a great turnout.
Oh, that's awesome. And how did Mill Valley like it? Did they like having the event there? I don't think they've ever held a race at Mill Valley before.
I don't know that they have either, but, they've just been really supportive. And I think, we didn't hear any complaints. So I'll take that as no news is good news.
Yeah, boy, absolutely right on that one.
Those kids, oh my gosh, the ones that were running the kid run, so cute. And you had so many great volunteers that day. I think that everybody was just there for such a great support system. And I mean, really, honestly, it was so heartfelt and such a wonderful race to be at.
Definitely. And you are correct. We had some amazing volunteers. And because, we were running around like crazy people, we didn't get to see a lot of what was happening, in some of the other areas. So when we got to go back and look at pictures from that day, it was so great just to see, like, for example, my friend Stacy Ford, she was down there with the kids and she had them do stretches before their little run. And I thought, oh, that's so cute. I'm so glad you did that. But yeah, so it was fun to look through the pictures and see really all of the different things that were going on around us that we maybe lost sight of a little bit through that busy day.
I mean, I can imagine it would be really easy to lose sight of things when you're trying to get a race underway. As we can actually say now, we know it is a very difficult thing to put a race on.
Yes, there's a lot that goes into it. Now, I will tell you, on year 2, it is so much easier.
Well,
much easier. Yeah.
All right. Well, we're going to get to year 2 here in a minute.
Yes.
Since year 1, again, a full year ago, I don't think there's a time where I'm not on Facebook and I don't see something happening with you guys. It looks like, to me, things are going not just well, but really well. Can you fill us in on some of the highlights of what's been happening with Keepin Clean for Coop since we saw you at the race last year?
Yeah. So, our mission has always been, since we lost Cooper, we want to make sure that we are getting, the message out. We want to educate and spread awareness to particularly the youth and their families in our area and actually beyond our area, because before this happened to Cooper, we had no idea about the crisis that our country was facing with illicit fentanyl, coming across the border in unprecedented amounts. So we knew right away, this was our mission. We wanted to share this information. And we have done that. We think that sharing Cooper's story can serve as a cautionary tale to all who hear it. And we hope they remember it as they, move through life. And especially, this year should be Cooper's senior year. He should be graduating. And so a lot of his friends are moving on to that next stage of life. And we want to make sure that they remember Cooper's story. So that was our mission. We needed to get out there. We needed to tell people. And so fortunately, I have an amazing sister-in-law who lives in Wichita. She's a nurse practitioner, and she has been, on the circuit, just like I have been in this area. But together, over these last 13 months, we have given 52 in-person presentations and reached over 12,000 students and families.
Wow.
So yeah, we've been busy, but it's so worth it, because if we can just save one life, it's all worth it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I did see you, you just had some good news as of, what was it, today?
Yeah.
5 hours ago. Fill us in on this, because I saw a tweet involving you guys with Governor Laura Kelly here from Kansas. Please fill us in on today's goings on.
I haven't even heard about this.
Yeah,
I know.
Breaking news.
Yeah. So while we try very hard to stay in our lane of education and awareness. There are a lot of different lanes to go down when you're talking about the fentanyl epidemic. So we've crossed over a little bit into advocacy and harm reduction, which are all good things, because I just keep saying, like my litmus test for if I want to do something or be part of something, I ask myself, could this save a life? And if the answer is yes, then we will be a part of it. And so today, Kansas, Governor Kelly signed a bill that finally made fentanyl testing strips basically legal in the state of Kansas. So prior, and it won't go into effect until July 1st, but prior to this time, fentanyl testing strips have been considered drug paraphernalia. So if you were caught with them, it was a criminal offense.
What? That's crazy.
I know, right? So last year, the Kansas legislature, the House, asked me to write a letter in support of fentanyl testing strips, which I did. It did not pass last year. So this year, I was asked again to come testify. And so I went in person this year and shared our story and how, things could be different for a lot of people if these strips were legalized. So I went to talk to the House. I went back and talked to the Senate. We thought the bill, and we thought it was a done deal. We thought it was not going to pass through the Senate. And then miraculously, a few weeks ago, I was notified that it passed. And then I was invited to be part of the signing today. So that was such an honor. Like, I don't really consider myself a political person. I don't know much about the workings of our legislature. I can't even say it. That's how much I don't know about it. But anyway, it was a real honor. And I think that's a big step for Kansas because, that's just one hurdle, but we've passed it now. And I think it will open the door for a lot of other work that needs to be done around this fentanyl epidemic.
Wow, that is great. And congratulations to you on that achievement. I'm looking at it right here, and it says it was a bipartisan bill that decriminalizes fentanyl test strips. So anytime you can get something through both political parties, then you're doing something right.
That's pretty good.
So, a huge congratulations. That's great. If anyone wants to look, Keepin Clean for Coop Facebook page. That's where I'm looking right now. And it's great to see all this. I also didn't know that we had just passed May 9th, which is National Fentanyl Awareness Day. So what did you guys do to mark that day, which was now a couple of days ago?
A lot of things were happening that day. Specifically, what we did is we put signs out in our front yard, and we have a big kind of pull-up sign with Cooper's picture and, the informational signs in your yard, kind of the same ones you saw at the race last year. Mm-hmm. But we put those out on big days so that passerbyers can see. But we did partner with a big organization this year. It was, I guess, the coalition, you could call it, of many organizations that came together for this Fentanyl Awareness Day. And really, it's a lot about just using your social media and sharing information and data and statistics and just, shooting it out to the masses. But there were 5 educational webinars that were offered. And then our local DEA, Operation Engage, also offered a webinar that day. So really just trying to engage the community to attend, some of these webinars and learn more about what's happening.
And it looks like it was even picked up on KSHB. They had a spotlight on it.
Yeah.
Did you work with them at all on this story?
I did. Yeah.
You said you try and get everything out, social media, websites, and this, that, and the other. I know there's someone that has intimate knowledge of your website. So maybe
there is.
Maybe that person could drop some website knowledge for everyone. Where should they go to see everything that Libby had just mentioned?
Well, they can go to CooperDavisMemorialFoundation.org or KeepinCleanForCoop.org. They actually, and this is very exciting, they now have a store. So you can actually go and support and get the gear, some t-shirts, some hats, some beanies, sweatshirts. So you can support this amazing cause. They just opened that, a week ago, Libby?
Yeah, I think last Saturday was our go live day.
Yeah, that was exciting.
Nice. Yeah, that's awesome. And so just so everyone knows, Katie has done some work on that website.
Little bit.
Little piece here, little piece there. All right. Well, Is there anything else that has happened here over these last 12 months that you want to throw at everyone? Any way that they can help, get involved? On the other side of the race, we're going to circle back around to this year's race here in a minute.
Sure. Well, I mean, another piece of big news was that in August, we did officially become a nonprofit, a 501c3. So, well, we thought it was going to be a pretty big undertaking. It actually went a lot smoother than we had planned, but we're glad to have that under our belt. And then another big thing that's happening is there is actually a national bill that Senator Roger Marshall has really spearheaded. I met with him last May and just kind of shared, anytime anybody was willing to listen to me, I kind of gave them a checklist of things I'd like to see happen. And I think, he had been working on this far before he met with me, but he has been in Washington, showing Cooper's picture and telling Cooper's story really since June of last year. And they approached us and asked, can we put Cooper's name on this bill? So there is a national bill that is written to hold social media companies more accountable to the illegal activities or illicit activities that happen on their platforms. Just better surveillance, I guess, of what's happening on their platforms, and then working with law enforcement to make sure, that things are dealt with appropriately. But that is called the Cooper Davis Act. And we're still waiting to see if it's going to pass, but it is also a bipartisan bill with a lot of great support. So we're really hopeful.
Oh, that's great. Now, help me out, because I'm trying to think, how is social media kind of used illicitly in this area? Do you have like a specific example of how this happens?
Yeah. And are you being facetious? Like you really don't know?
Well, I mean, I'd like an example just so I really know if I'm on this or if I'm way off base, which is always possible.
Well, yeah. So, I mean, the fentanyl epidemic stems from the drug cartels in Mexico. They are the ones producing illicit fentanyl and bringing it into our country. They chose fentanyl because they can make it in massive quantities. It's very cheap. It's odorless, tasteless, easy to get across the border. They have a very, very good business plan in place. And another reason that fentanyl was a drug of choice is because it's highly, highly addictive. So their business plan is to drive addiction in our country and create repeat users. So the more users they have, the more money they make. And it's definitely a money-making business. But they have also harnessed our technology and basically, through social media platforms, that is where the marketing is happening. And most of the drug sales are happening. Drug deals don't happen in dark alleys anymore. They're happening on our smartphones. They're targeting our kids through these social media apps. You can pay through an app on your smartphone, and you can have the drug delivered to your front door. It's just as easy as ordering a pizza. So they're smart. They're definitely smart to tap into all of these resources to help their business, but they're doing a really good job, actually.
Well, and now they're making drugs that are so much more enticing to kids and targeting kids, right?
Yeah. So probably early fall last year, we started seeing what they're calling rainbow fentanyl. So they're using the same pill press that they were using to make, fake M30s or Percocet, Little Blues. They're using the same pill press, but they're making them in fun rainbow colors. So hot pink, yellow, green, orange. Yeah. And so I think, the DEA describes it as a deliberate effort to lure our children into trying something. Mm-hmm. And then we even saw what they called speckled fentanyl. And it looked like a tie-dye kind of pill. So it had a lot of different fun colors in it.
That's crazy. Does it make it cheaper for them to make fentanyl itself? I mean, is fentanyl cheaper to mass produce?
Oh, it's very cheap. Yes. Very, very cheap. It's a synthetic opioid, meaning it's man-made. They don't have to rely on growing crops and waiting for their crops to grow to, for their drug supply. They can instantly make it as long as they have the chemicals and the manpower to do so.
Now, as someone who has to fight his children constantly on their social media presence, because there's ones I really don't want them on. Is there like the main offender? What social media app is there one that stands out as this seems to be the one that parents really need to look out for?
Well, this is just my personal opinion.
Sure.
Because I do think it happens on all social media sites, but Snapchat, because Snapchat was the one that kind of came out with that feature where messages disappear within 2 minutes. And so there's a level of privacy that kids can have that parents have no control over. That has made it, I think, the main avenue for drug sales. Mm-hmm. And, you know, there is a class action lawsuit right now with many families who have lost children to counterfeit pills that have been purchased on Snapchat. So that kind of leads me to believe that they might be the main culprit.
I think what kids don't understand too, and what maybe they have a false sense of security, is that the police can go back and they can get that information from Snapchat, even when it disappears. And so they think that they're doing something that can't be traced, when in fact that is not the case.
Correct. So now, that being said, you know, law enforcement still has some troubles. Like, they can't open somebody's phone. They have these machines, I guess, where it will try to decode the password to get into a phone. And I've heard families who said their child's phone has been on the decoder for months and months and months, and it's just not, they can't get into it. But yeah, and that's part of the Cooper Davis Act, really, is requiring these social media companies to be more forthcoming with the information that they obviously have access to.
Right.
And being more proactive about doing something when they detect this illegal activity.
And you said that so far there's no timetable on when that might get voted on.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know yet.
All right. Well, hopefully soon.
Yes. Yeah, hopefully soon.
I imagine with all the publicity, not just locally, but nationally, that this is getting, I don't see any way that bill gets shot down.
I would think not. You know, they wrote it, basically it's framed after a bill, and hopefully I quote this right, back in the 1980s, that was written to protect children from sexual predators on the internet. Mm-hmm. So it was holding the internet companies more accountable for activity on the internet. So it's the same concept. We need to protect our kids. Now we have social media platforms, which are similar to being on the web. And there has to be some auditing and some accountability and oversight to what's happening, and that the companies are doing enough to protect our kids.
Absolutely. We will keep an eye on, I guess, our social media to see when that gets passed. Here's hoping it is soon and quickly and decisively. So, all right, well, let's start talking about this year, because what is it? June 17th, Mill Valley High School. We have your second Fighting Fentanyl 5K. So tell me, what can we expect this year? Have you decided on any changes? Anything we're going to do a little differently? Surprise us. Here's your big reveal.
Yeah, well, it's going to be a much cooler day.
Gosh, I hope so. It was so
Yay!
hot.
Oh, how I wish we could promise that.
No kidding.
Yeah, that was probably the biggest downfall of last year's race, is how warm it was that day. But we are going to come more prepared. We will definitely have 2 water stations set up. You will be given a cooling towel at one of the water stations. Nice. And, you know, if it is going to be fairly hot, we're going to set up, you know, some cooling tents or some misting tents where people can really cool off. Mm-hmm. We also have invited, and we know that the Shawnee Fire Department will be joining us that day, as long as there's no urgent calls they have to get to. But if anybody needs water, I bet you they'll be able to provide a little for us. So yeah, hopefully we get a slightly cooler day, but if not, we'll have some resources there to help with that. The other new thing that's, and I don't know, last year we had awards. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if people left the race early because it was so warm, or they didn't know we were going to do awards. They were not great awards because, again, remember, this was our first year and we didn't know what to expect. And, you know, we didn't know how much we should spend, all of those things. But this year we're going to have much better awards.
Okay.
Garmin is one of our sponsors. And so the overall male and female winners of the race will get a Garmin device.
Nice.
Ooh.
And then also, I know, Kyle, you'll be excited that everyone who finishes the 5K will get a finisher's medal this year.
There we go.
It's like Kyle.
Let's get
It's
that
like
bling.
I do.
He does love his medals.
We all do. We are all guilty. My running people back me up on this. We're guilty. So do we get any kind of a clue, a hint on what the medals are going to look like?
It's going to look a lot like the t-shirt.
Okay. Wait a minute. I don't know what this year's t-shirt looks like.
Well, it's pretty much just the logo. It's hard to make a fun, real interesting medal when you're dealing, I think, with the topic that we're dealing with.
Correct. Yes.
But we insert those little, counterfeit pills, as often as we can, because that's kind of our message, mm-hmm. Our 5K really is, we said this last year, this is an awareness event disguised as a 5K.
Right.
So our biggest goal, even more than fundraising, our biggest goal is to get our message out there, educate more people who can then go on and educate other people, and so on and so forth. Mm-hmm. But, we just really want to get our message out there. So right. I would say our goal for this year is, sure, we want all the people from last year to come back, but we hope to get a new audience too. And we are really hoping that, I've met many, many, more than I'd like to admit, affected families besides ourselves. I think right. We had six affected families join us last year, but I'm really hoping we have more families that come out and represent the loved one that they have lost. Mm-hmm. And another thing we're doing, I'm sure you've seen, the extra bib that some racers can get, like, for example, Susan G. Komen mm-hmm. or the Heart Walk or anything like that, where it says, I'm walking in memory of, or I'm walking in honor of. Well, we have bibs this year that people can grab and fill out and wear that say, I'm fighting for.
Nice.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, that's great.
I love
so
that.
I'm excited to see people wearing those. And even if you haven't lost one, I hope everybody comes out, because they're fighting for their kids. They're fighting for their friends. They're fighting for, their cousins or nieces or nephews, or, everybody can be out there fighting for someone, because this is truly a battle that our nation is facing, and we need everybody involved.
Absolutely.
One of the really cool things I thought you guys did last year, Libby, was you had a pledge that everybody could sign. And it was so amazing to see, which I can only imagine were a lot of Cooper's friends that were signing it, that were there running, that were there supporting. I know that pledge is also online on your website, but can you tell us about that pledge?
That pledge banner was the first one we used last year. And really, half of it's very large. It's like 5 foot by 3 foot or something. But one side is basically Cooper's picture and Cooper's story. And then at the bottom, there's some boxes that tells you what the pledge entails. Like, first, of course, I won't take any pill that wasn't prescribed to me by a physician and filled by a pharmacy. I will support my friends. I will be accepting when people want to talk about their mental health. I will share this information with my friends. And then to the right side of the banner is just a big white space where you can sign your name saying you're taking the pledge. And as you said, it's also on the website. But I continue to make those banners, and I have started taking them to every school that I speak in. And so it's been really amazing, because I do get some follow-up photos of the banner being signed at other schools. Mill Valley has one, of course. We were in Mill Valley in August on the other National Fentanyl Awareness and Prevention Day. And so Mill Valley has one, and every school I go to, I take them a banner and they get it signed and hang it in their schools.
Is there a place that we can go see those pictures?
I'm sure, I don't know. I'll have to go back and check, but I will post some for you.
Perfect.
There we go. Well, and after you get those posted, or before or during, people can go out to the website, which is the CooperDavisMemorialFoundation.org. And then I'm looking right there at the top. It says 5K Run Walk. So that is the Fighting Fentanyl 5K. that everyone needs to get to and get registered because time is ticking. Does it feel like it's already been a year since your last race?
It kind of snuck up on us. but like I said, year 2 is so much easier. So we keep having meetings and we keep staring at each other like, what are we forgetting? What are we forgetting? Like, this just seems too easy. We have to be forgetting something. So it is much easier.
But good. Yeah.
That sounds like a good goal to have, Kyle. We need to just get to year 2.
Yeah. We'll just get to year 2, not even worry about year 1.
Yeah. We're just gonna skip this one.
Sure.
Is that how that
works?
works?
You will be fine. You will be fine.
All right. Well, if there's anything else that you want to add, now's the time.
Well, I'm just going to plug some recent data and statistics for you because, a lot changes in a year in this whole fentanyl epidemic. So the most recent information is, and this all comes from the DEA, but in 2019, the DEA seized 2.2 million pills. And in 2022, they seized 50.6 million pills.
Holy cow.
Grief.
Okay, they tested them too. And this was the statistic that I had been waiting for a long time. And CNN did a big report in February, went to the DEA lab in Chicago. And the DEA lab reported that of those 50.6 million pills, they tested over 99% of them were in fact fake and contained fentanyl.
Good grief.
So, and now after that testing, so before November, DEA would say 4 out of 10 of those counterfeit pills contained a lethal dose of fentanyl. And since all of this testing has been completed, they're now saying 6 out of 10 counterfeit pills contains a lethal dose of fentanyl. And so now that we know more than 99% of them are in fact fake, the take-home message is, and this is what I want our teenagers to hear, is that if you think that a pill you're getting off of social media might be the real thing, might be an actual pharmaceutical Percocet, your chances are less than 1% that it's real, but your chances are 60% that it might kill you.
Wow.
Well,
I
think that's probably the best place to leave it right there. Let that one marinate with everyone because dang.
I would say Kyle was almost speechless, and that takes an act of Congress. So,
never miss a chance to get that dig in there, Katie. I appreciate you. Yeah, no, that. It's like when we were talking to the Baby J's people when they told us about the percent of money that goes to children's cancer research, and it just left me floored. This was the exact same thing. I am speechless. I don't even know what to say about that. Right?
I will say that Libby has created such a good atmosphere on the website with resources for people who have jobs in the school district who want to know more, who maybe have the opportunity to help spread the word to kids. I know if you want to read more about Cooper's story, there's a tab at the top that will tell you all about Cooper. And I just can't be any more thankful for you, Libby, and your family for taking such a horrible tragedy and turning it into taking care of the rest of our kids. It's a heartbreaking and amazing thing. And we give you as much love as we possibly can on this podcast, because I know it can't be an easy road and you guys are just doing amazing things.
Well, thank you. I mean, we appreciate that. And we have had, such great support along the way and people coming out to help us because, a lot of this stuff, is not familiar to us. We're healthcare workers. We don't know how to build websites. We don't know how to, put on races. We're not business people, but we have gotten a lot of help along the way. And, doing this work and starting this nonprofit keeps us close to Coop. He is still the center of our family, and it's been very therapeutic. And we genuinely love being able to use his story to help others.
Yeah, I imagine through all the work that you've done and those numbers that you just gave, whether you know it or not, I am sure at this point you have absolutely saved a life, if not multiple lives that would have otherwise been lost had this information and your hard work not gone out into the world. So huge applause to you and everything you guys are doing.
Thank you. Still a lot of work to be done.
Yeah, I'm all signed up and ready to be out there on the 17th, and I'm trying to get as many listeners as I can out there to fill that race up.
Yeah. Well, it is Father's Day weekend. It would be a great gift to all dads to be able to spend the day with their families. And, one of the greatest pieces of feedback we got after last year was, the families that walked with their kids along the race. We have signs along the race that provide a lot of information. And they just said the signs opened the door to have really good, effective conversations with their kids about what was going on. And so, I think it's the perfect thing for Father's Day weekend to come. Make sure your kids have this information, keep them safe. And, we hope to have some new faces out this year.
Oh, I think you will. For sure.
And if they can't make it to the race and they don't want to just buy an entry, there is a way to support besides buying the gear, which is good too. Amazingly good. Because then you can also spread the story about Cooper. But there's also a donate button, right?
There is, yes.
And so I'm assuming every little bit helps.
Of course. And, you mentioned the gear again, which, the reason we want gear out there, we started doing it right away at the high school and just, handing out a lot of shirts, but they are great conversation starters. And the message on the back is one pill can kill. And it's actually a repeating message, meaning it's on there a few different times. But just having that, that type of apparel out in the community really starts good conversations. And that's the point of our gear, really, is not to make money off of it, but really just to get it out there in circulation so people ask what it means.
Right.
Yeah. And you guys got a lot of really cool stuff out here on this site.
Thank you.
Now I'm going to have to place an order. Man, you got me.
Darn.
We're just really excited, happy to be on the podcast again. Thank you guys so much for all of your support throughout this last year.
For sure.
You're very welcome.
Now we'll have to do this again next year.
Yeah,
we will.
With a national
I always
bill.
hope we won't, because I'd like the fentanyl epidemic to go away.
Yes.
And then there would be no need for a Fighting Fentanyl 5K. But as long as there is a need, we will keep doing it.
There we go. And we will be here to record yet again.
Sounds good.
That's what we do. All right. Well, Katie, you good with this?
I'm good, man.
Think you can edit this together and make it sound amazing?
It'll be beautiful.
It'll be beautiful. So beautiful. Again, a huge thank you to Libby for coming on the show. She's busy. There are so many good things going on. And again, on such a terrible, terrible subject matter and a terrible topic, to say there are good things going on, that's big. And there's good things going on. They are doing great work. They are making strides in fighting this really, really awful occurrence that's going on, especially with our youth. A lot of people who listen to this show are kind of my contemporaries. You have children, high school age, or in and around there. You are almost guaranteed this is going to affect their life at some point in time. So please take everything that Libby talked about, listen, take it to heart, talk to your kids, do what you need to do, parent how you feel you need to parent, but protect them and your family from what is becoming a really terrible thing. But thankfully, with Keepin Clean for Coop, the Fighting Fentanyl 5K, and then the Davis family, I have no doubt that this is going to get resolved hopefully soon. Like she said in the episode, hopefully we don't talk about this next year. Hopefully she is not a return guest, because it will all be taken care of. And as much as I enjoy talking to Libby, I hope so too. I hope we don't have to talk to her again, and the Fighting Fentanyl 5K becomes a different race for a different cause, or whatever the case might be. So, hey, thank you so much for the Davis family. Thank you to producer Katie for hopping in and helping me out on that one. Next week, we're going to be back again. We're finishing up my 2 weekends in a row with no race to run. And I know everyone just finished up running with the cows, so congrats to all the cow finishers. Hope you had fun out there. It was a warm day, but I'm sure everyone had a great time. Next weekend, again, no race, so I think I've got another idea in the works that we will work on and go with, and you will enjoy. So, hey, that's going to do it for this week's episode of the Back of the Pack podcast, part of the Beyond the Finish Line program. My name is Kyle Walker. It is my pleasure as always. This show is brought to you by OKKC Sports and produced by Katie O'Neill. We're going to be back with another little treat next week. And so we will see you then. Have a good week, everybody.